Hello, Miss Hannon here, and today we're going to be talking about graphing. So first, it's important to know the parts of a graph. The axis that goes up and down is called the y-axis. I remember it because the y has a long part here that goes straight up and down, just like this axis. So it's the y-axis. The one that goes across, the horizontal axis, is called the x-axis. And at the top, you should always have some kind of title. Usually the title is independent variable versus dependent variable, or something that accurately represents what your data is showing. It's a helpful checklist to help you make sure that you have all the appropriate parts of a graph. So first you need to identify the independent and dependent variables, because the independent variable goes on the x-axis, bottom, and remember the independent variable is the thing that you are changing in an experiment. The dependent variable, or the thing that you measure, goes on the y-axis. Units on the axes should use regular, equal intervals and be evenly spaced out. That's really important, and if you don't do that every single time, your data will just look like a line going from one corner to the other corner of the graph. So if you see that, that means you did something wrong. You didn't go in regular, equal intervals. Axes should be labeled with units. What are these numbers? Are they centimeters, liters, days, weeks, months? Be specific and use units. Make sure you're using accurate data that you've recorded. And it's important to use the correct type of graph, either a line graph versus bar graph, and I'll show you how to distinguish between the two in a second. All right, take a second and pause this video and think about what is wrong with this graph. What did this person do incorrectly? If you can see here, this person did not go up by regular even intervals, right? We've got 29, 38, 54, 62. These are probably numbers from the data that they collected that was in their data table, but these are the numbers that should be plotted on the line. These should just be regular, evenly spaced out units, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, something like that. So here's an example of when you use regular equal intervals on the axes. We can see here 20, 40, 60, 80. And then when you plotting your actual data from the data table, those are the points that you're putting on the lines here. And then you can connect them with a line to show how the data is changing over time. That will help you see patterns in the data. Hopefully that helps. All right, the next step is choosing the correct type of graph, and that's really important. Do you make a line graph or a bar graph? You use a line graph when the independent variable changes over time or in amount, or pretty much if it's a number, right? So a number of days, an amount of fertilizer, anything that you're using a number for. That's when you want to use a line graph because it will show the progression. Use a bar graph when the independent variable changes in type. A person's name, the color of a flower, a different type of fertilizer, anything that wouldn't necessarily be correlated and you would need to make a line with. Right? We're looking at the different types of something, not the amount of something. Okay, so it's really important when you're making a graph to choose the correct type that best shows your data. I know a lot of you have experience graphing on paper, so I'm going to show you how to graph using Google Sheets. So what you would do is you would open up a new Google Sheets document, so just like you would open up a Google Doc, open a Google Sheets, it's the green one, and you're going to put your data from your data table in there. You want to line it up like a T-chart, right? So you'll have the independent variable on one side, the dependent variable on the other. You want to make sure you include headers with units. So this one says time to change color in minutes, right? The units go in parentheses. And then you fill in the numerical data. Okay? You want to make sure for your your dependent variable, you're using numbers. Do not include words here because the algorithm won't know how to make a graph and you won't get anything. Okay, so make sure you don't write 25 minutes, Just write 25. Okay, the units go in the header. Okay, so these should be all numbers. Then, once you have all your data inputted, you just highlight all the boxes where you wrote something. So like here, it's shown in blue, right? You're selecting all the boxes that you wrote something in, and then you're going to press this little button here that kind of looks like a graph. Then it should produce some type of graph for you. Maybe it's not the kind you want. Maybe it'll give you a pie chart, and you would prefer to have a line graph. Then you would go into the chart editor, which will pop up on the right-hand side, and you can change where it says chart type. You can change the type of graph. So maybe you want to change it to a line graph, a bar graph, a scatter plot, whatever. You can also customize and adjust the headings for each of your axes, your unit, your title. Okay, and that will give you an accurate representation of your data.